Hi, I'm Mike Higton. I work for Durham University and I'm part of the team that helps run the Common Awards Partnership, working with a variety of theological education institutions around the country and helping them deliver Common Awards programs. And this is the first of a series of 3 videos where I want to introduce to you our new policy on generative AI, generative artificial intelligence, things like ChatGPT, and what you are and are not allowed to do with them in your studies. The first video is going to be just introducing what generative AI is, talking a bit about how it works and what sorts of things it can be used to do. The second video will explore the question of academic misconduct. What kinds of uses of generative AI in your studies could get you into difficulties, could get you into trouble? And then the third video will explore some broader issues, some sort of ethical issues surrounding the use of generative AI, and look at some other ways in which the use of generative AI might be good or bad for you in your learning and in the ministry for which you're training. So in this first video, I'm going to ask the question, what is generative AI? Now, the example you're most likely to have heard of at a guess is ChatGPT, which exploded into public consciousness a couple of years ago and has become very popular indeed. And ChatGPT is an online system, normally accessed online, and it's a system where you can type in whatever prompt you want and get a response from ChatGPT, normally some text that it will produce for you, and people use it for all sorts of purposes. They might use it to write a newsletter article, or they might use it to help them draft an email, or they might use it to help them write a sermon, all sorts of things that people get ChatGPT to write for them, or to amend or extend things they've written themselves. That's one example of what's called generative artificial intelligence. There are lots of others. Alongside ChatGPT, you've got things like Microsoft Copilot or Google Bard or Gemini. There are a legion of them these days, and the number just keeps on growing. And sometimes they're embedded in other things that we use in ways that may mean we don't even know that we're using them. I'll come back to that in a bit. Now, what do we mean when we say that these are examples of generative AI? These are computerized systems that are good at generating text or video or images or audio, good at generating material that looks like it's the kind of thing that would normally require human intelligence to produce. So it's generative AI in the sense that it generates these things, generates text or images or video or whatever. It's intelligent in a sense because it mimics the kind of output that would normally require human intelligence or human creativity, human thought and labour to produce. But it's artificial intelligence. It's mimicking that. It's not itself actually thinking. It's not itself actually intelligent. It's not itself actually creative. But it's a system that's good at mimicking those things. Now, the easiest ones to think about are the ones that generate text. So something like ChatGPT. If you go to ChatGPT and type in a question like, what is theological education? You'll get a response. Text, in this case, quite intelligent seeming text. What it says is quite reasonable, quite a good answer to that question. But it's important to recognize that ChatGPT, the computer system that's providing that response, isn't itself intelligent. It doesn't know anything. It's not aware of theological education. It doesn't think about it and produce an answer based on that thought. What it is a system that has absorbed and learnt from huge amounts of text written by human beings. Something like ChatGPT will have been trained upon millions of texts produced by human beings. And when it gets a prompt like, what is theological education? ChatGPT will, in effect, be saying, okay, statistically speaking, what are the sorts of things that human beings have said when faced with a prompt like that, when asked a question like that? How have human beings typically put words together, and what sorts of words have they put together when they're responding to a question like that. And the text it produces will be its way of giving you a sample of the kind of things that human beings have said when faced with a question like that. These systems are very sophisticated. They're very good at that particular task. They may not actually be thinking, may not actually be aware in any sense, but they're very good at generating plausible answers to the prompts that we give to them. And because of that, they can be used in all kinds of contexts. In any context where people are producing images or text or video or audio, an artificially intelligent system can be one fast and efficient way of producing something plausible in a very short period of time, something that would normally take quite a long time and take a lot of human effort and thought to produce. Now, it's perhaps important to say at this point that some of the time you might be very aware that you're using a generative AI system. I mean, if you go to the ChatGPT website and type in a prompt there, you ought to be aware that you are using ChatGPT, you're using a generative AI system. Some of the time, however, generative AI systems have become embedded in other tools that we use. So for instance, if you do a normal Google search, often the thing that you'll find at the top of the results page will be an answer to your search query produced by a generative AI. It's an AI overview. Just the same kind of technology as involved in ChatGPT, but you didn't explicitly ask for that AI. You just did a Google search, and yet there you are. There is an AI-generated bit of text produced in response to your search query. Now, because these tools are very widely available, and because they are good at producing plausible content on the whole, the question arises, should you use them in the context of theological education when you're writing essays or other assignments, for instance? And can and should you use them in your ministry when you're producing, say, sermons or articles for a church newsletter or whatever it might be? What is it that these tools are good for, and what are the proper limits on their use? In the second video, I'm going to try answering that question in one way. We're going to look at the formal academic misconduct policy, what it is that will get you into trouble if you're found to have done it with any generative AI tool on the assignments that you produce for your Common Awards programme. In the third and final video, we'll look instead at some of the broader ethical and other issues surrounding the use of generative AI, things that won't necessarily get you into trouble in the same way, but that you should take into account when thinking about whether and how to use generative AI.